In January of the 59 BC year, at the beginning of Julius Caesar's first consulship, and a full decade before the conqueror of Gaul marched his legions across the Rubicon River to become dictator of Rome, Livia Drusilla was born to parents Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus and Ophidia. Livia's father, Drusus Claudianus, was born with the name of Appius Claudius Pulcher, and unusual within Roman customs, was adopted as an infant rather than as an adult. The tribune of the plebs, Marcus Livius Drusus, who had failed to conceive a child with his wife, Servilia, lived next door to a Claudius Pulcher who had begotten many children between two marriages. Pulcher was the father of at least 3 sons, including the infamous Publius Clodius, as well as 5 daughters. With so many sons to see installed in the Senate and daughters to properly dower, families with an illustrious name but insufficient wealth often chose to allow their progeny to be adopted by another family. And so, it is possible that Livia's father was an older brother of Publius Clodius Pulcher, and under such circumstances had been adopted by the childless Drusus couple. But after this tribune of the plebs, Marcus Livius Drusus, was assassinated, launching Rome into the social war. His brother, Marcus Aemilius Lepidus Livianus, took custody of his now orphaned nephew, and raised the young Drusus Claudianus in his own household, together with his wife Cornelia Sulla. Not only did the young Drusus Claudianus grow up with the grandchildren of the dictator Sulla, but also with the children of his aunt, Livia Drusilla, who had predeceased both of her brothers. Among her 5 children was Servilia Caepiones, who later became Caesar's mistress and the mother of Caesar's assassin, and Marcus Porcius Cato, destined to become Caesar's political adversary at every turn. As an adult, Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus first wed a woman unnamed by historians, with whom he likely fathered a son, Gaius Livius Drusus, and a daughter, Livia Prima. His second wife was a woman named Ophidia, who gave birth to Livia Drusilla. During Caesar's 59 BC consulship, Livia's father hoped to benefit politically by supporting the first triumvirate of Caesar, Pompeius Magnus, and Marcus Licinius Crassus. Drusus Claudianus was also a close associate of Publius Vatinius, the tribune of the plebs who wrote the Lex Vatinia, which granted Caesar the provinces of Cisalpine Gaul and Illyricum for a term of 5 years. In 55 BC, Drusus Claudianus won election as a praetor thanks to preferential treatment bestowed by the first triumvirate. Following his election, Claudianus and his colleague, Publius Vatinius, were prosecuted in the courts as part of a group of magistrates who had been illegally helped into office by the triumvirate. Claudianus was charged by a prosecutor named Lucretius for prevaricatio, or deliberately misrepresenting the truth when being questioned about his campaign funds. After Caesar intervened and secured Marcus Tullius Cicero to represent him, Drusus Claudianus was acquitted. In 50 BC, the year before Caesar marched on Rome, Drusus Claudianus presided as a judge in a quaestio that tried cases under the Lex Scantinia, a politically curious law that, among other things, made it a criminal offense for a Roman freeborn male to assume a submissive role in a sexual relationship with a foreign-born male. When civil war erupted between Caesar and Pompeius Magnus, Drusus Claudianus remained loyal to the Caesarians. As half the Senate fled to Greece to join Pompeius Magnus, Drusus remained in Rome, where he continued to raise his daughter, Livia Drusilla. However, following the assassination of Caesar, Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus began distancing himself from the Caesarian party. Throughout the 44 BC year, as Marcus Antonius and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus Pontifex Maximus, Gaius Octavius, and Publius Cornelius Dolabella all fought amongst themselves for primacy within the party and the right to dictate the future of Caesar's legacy, Drusus Claudianus moved closer to the camp of Cicero and the Republicans. By the time Cicero launched into his Philippic speeches, chastising Marcus Antonius for besieging the town of Mutina, Drusus Claudianus solidified his shift of position through a marriage alliance between his daughter, Livia, and a kinsman named Tiberius Claudius Nero. Tiberius Nero had served as a military quaestor and naval commander for Caesar when the dictator and Egypt's queen Cleopatra were besieged in the royal quarters within the city of Alexandria. It was Tiberius Nero who successfully broke the Egyptian fleet's blockade of the harbor so that incoming supplies could reach Caesar's hungry men. For his victory against the Egyptian fleet, Nero was rewarded with a prestigious priesthood and was afterward given the responsibility to oversee Caesar's creation of settlements for Roman veterans in Gaul. Yet, on March 17th of the 44 BC year, just 2 days after Caesar's brutal murder, it was Tiberius Claudius Nero who had formally proposed that the Senate honor Marcus Junius Brutus, Gaius Cassius Longinus, and all those men who had acted to free Rome from the grip of a tyrant. Nero also threw his support behind Cicero's ongoing crusade to brand Marcus Antonius an enemy of the state. Near the end of 43 BC, around the same time that Marcus Antonius, Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, and Caesar Octavianus formed the Second Triumvirate, the 15-year-old Livia Drusilla was given in marriage to Tiberius Claudius Nero. We have told that Nero and Livia were cousins. Given the long-standing tradition within the various Claudian clans of marrying cousins to keep their bloodlines pure, it is possible that Nero, whose mother was named Claudia, might have been the biological nephew of Publius Clodius, whose 2 eldest sisters, Claudia Prima and Claudia Secunda, were married to men as yet unidentified by the historians. Whether or not Publius Clodius Pulcher was the uncle of both Livia and Nero remains uncertain. However, by virtue of the close familial ties between the Claudii Nerones and the Claudii Pulcherii, Livia and Nero were blood relatives. Not long after Livia's wedding to Nero, the Second Triumvirate arrived in Rome on 3 consecutive days, each at the head of a legion. Following the ratification of the Lex Titia, which legalized the 3-way agreement between the Triumvirs and granted them dictator-like powers in Rome, the first proscription list appeared in the Forum Romanum. For his role in supporting Cicero's motion that Marcus Antonius be named Hostes, Livia's father, Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus, found his name among the first 130 people now considered enemies of the state. Yet, despite his motion to honor Caesar's assassins, Livia Drusilla's husband, Nero, did not find himself among the proscribed, even after the Triumvirs added 150 more victims to their list. With Rome's gates and harbors guarded by the legions of the Triumvirs, escaping the city of Rome was difficult. Appian tells us that in order to get out of the city alive, men resorted to things they would have previously considered unthinkable. One man, trying to look inconspicuous, put his shoulder beneath a funeral bier which was being conveyed outside the city for burial, but was unfortunately caught when the soldiers noticed an incorrect number of pallbearers. While another man, pretending to be a priest of the new cult of Isis, which had flourished in Rome following Cleopatra's visit, dressed himself in flowing Egyptian linens in order to blend in with other cult members. But many people, in order to escape the bloodshed of the proscriptions, simply disappeared into the depths of the Cloaca Maxima, the city's sewer system, and waded their way to freedom through vile excrement. We do not know which method of escape he chose, but Livia's father broke free and made his way to Greece, where he joined the forces of Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus. His properties, a portion of which would one day have belonged to Livia Drusilla as part of her father's estate, were now seized by the Triumvirs. Once the daughter of a wealthy ex-praetor with a vast clientele of Italians loyal to the name of Marcus Livius Drusus, the proscription of Livia Drusilla's father, and the stripping away of his estate, left Livia with nothing but the dowry she had brought to her new marriage. But even that comparatively paltry sum was now under the control of her new husband, Nero Claudius Drusus.